Sam Levinson. Is it already a personal vendetta now? I did not want to watch this. Heck, I was planning to skip this show entirely. But then I started thinking, the last time Sam Levinson dropped the show, it pissed me off so much, I started the YouTube channel because of it. So I decided to face my fears and watch this show. But I did not realize what I was really getting into. I heard of the production problems with this show, but except that I didn't really care enough to look into it. Then when I decided to actually watch this show, I did some digging on it, and there is a lot of really fucked up shit. Most of the info I found and I used is based on an excellent article on the rollingstone.com that I will link at the top of the description, that basically tells the entire story of what happened behind the scenes while this show was created. I strongly, really strongly recommend that you read this before this video. But for those of you who don't want to read, let me do a quick summary that won't do this whole situation and article justice. So, The Weeknd and Sam Levinson decided to co-create a TV show. Sam Levinson wasn't originally the director because he was finishing his previous show, season 2 of Euphoria. The director was, I'm going to butcher this name, Amy Seymetz, who was put in an impossible situation for a lot of reasons and left the show after basically finishing around 80% of it, because The Weeknd thought the show became too much from the female perspective. Then Levinson comes in, takes the directing role, reshoots the entire goddamn show, rehauls the entire script, which allegedly led to terrible working conditions, Levinson having a complete ego trip, and the show almost becoming something even more disgusting, and I don't even want to say what exactly, because I don't want to trigger anybody. But some of the scenes described in that article are some of the worst stuff I have ever heard of. All allegedly, of course. And all of that led me to this point, where I will try to review this mess, but also encourage anyone to not watch this show at all. Even in my most negative reviews, I don't want to discourage anyone from watching the shows I'm talking about, because you know what? Just because I don't like it doesn't mean you won't. But here I say, do not watch this. Everyone I've seen on the internet mostly pokes fun of the badness of the show, which, yeah, it's really bad. But we need to shine the light on the behind the scenes hellhole behind it. Sam Levinson should not get away with this. I will talk about the show itself though, because damn it, I watched it and I do have thoughts, lots of them. So what is this show story-wise? Well, let's maybe start from what this show was supposed to be, at least before the reshoots and the rewrite of the entire thing. According to the report, this show was supposed to be about A, the struggles of pop star stardom and how big of a toll on the mental health of the pop star it can be. B, the abuse in the music industry. C, a vulnerable woman with a lot of trauma behind her, falling for a cult leader who manipulates her and does some awful shit to her. The first two ideas sound actually pretty great, because this topic wasn't really explored in movie or TV form at all, and with more cases of pop stars openly talking about their abuse in the industry, with the biggest examples that I know of being Britney Spears and Kesha, the conversation about this problem grows louder and louder, and it being shown in a TV show form could have actually opened some minds on that topic. But of course, this show was completely rehauled and completely rewritten and reshot. So what of all of this is left? Well, almost nothing really. I mean, C is still here, but the first two are almost completely out of here. Seriously, except few scenes here and there, the first two motifs are gone completely. And this is one of the things that pissed me the most off, because this show, even if the original version of the show wasn't good, because we will never know, it could have been an important catalyst in exposing how fucked up the music industry can be on a big stage, in a big show. But no, it was all basically erased. What did we get instead? A misogynistic mess about a pop star who can't make music if her abusive and manipulative cult leader of a boyfriend doesn't fuck her and embarrass her in front of people. And I wish I was exaggerating right now. This is basically a porn with Lily Rose Depp's character being objectified like no other character I have ever seen. Like literally, the plot of this show is Lily Rose Depp's character is a pop star, something happened to her, and she can't make music anymore. And then she meets The Weeknd's character who abuses her physically, mentally, and sexually, so she makes quote-unquote good music again. And I wish I was skipping some deep psychological layers, or I am just super oversimplifying this show. But no, there is no layers. There is no more to this story. It is what it is, with not much more. This show is a disgusting fantasy of a complete creep, and watching it isn't funny. Is it funny bad? It's just disgusting and morally reprehensible. Even if this was the original form of this and we never got the report of how the show looked before Sam Levinson went in, this is the most vomit-inducing television show I have ever seen. I feel sorry for every person that went through abuse or super traumatic relationships, who has to either watch this show or just hear about this show that exploits their trauma in such a predatory way. It's so fucked up. Also, I just realized something. There is no trigger warnings on the beginning of any of these episodes. Like, if you went through this type of trauma and you randomly boot up this show without any knowledge of what it is and just play it because it's recommended and it's advertised everywhere, this is so fucked up. How the fuck is there no trigger warnings? You want the victims to just get triggered for no reason because some maniac decided he wants to exploit their trauma to earn money? Are you fucking serious, HBO? Hi, it's me from the future here. I didn't mention in the video anything about how much the show glorifies the abuse and the trauma. Like, this show doesn't make you feel like both those things are something that you would rather not have in your life and are very traumatic and bad for you. And it's beyond me how in 2023 somehow still this was allowed. Like, this is nothing. Like, this is completely cool. No, shit like that, glorifying abuse, should not be allowed anywhere, specifically in this case on television or on streaming. This show is really damaging to the entire abusive relationship, mental health conversation that was growing stronger and stronger throughout the last few years. And it makes me sick to my stomach that somebody decided that this was okay, this is cool, there is nothing wrong with that. It's sickening, it's disgusting. Also, talking about the show itself, the writing is all-time horrible in it. Both the dialogues and the basic writing of the show. The dialogues are cringeworthy, disgusting, and literally unlistenable. And the show as a whole is just filled with shit that starts or is randomly mentioned to be immediately forgotten and be never mentioned again. Like, this show is not only horrific in exploiting the trauma of innocent people, this show is also a horrible piece of television that is written horribly. So maybe at least characters are somewhat of a saving grace? Levinson did some great character work in season 1 of Euphoria. Maybe he did some again? No, fuck no. Probably the biggest shame that there was not even an attempt to write anybody here was the main character Jocelyn. There are some moments where it seems like the show is trying to write her some character so we would feel for her, or at least kinda understand why she falls for that guy, and that we root for her to get out of this fucked up cycle. But see, here is the main problem with her and all the rest of the characters. The glimpses are all there is. A few scenes or micro moments sprinkled throughout, not even the entire show, basically only the first two episodes. But none of them go anywhere, most of them are completely forgotten, and the ones that don't get forgotten are absolutely ruined, and Jocelyn is the shiniest example of that. There is a few sparks of character, but besides of that there is nothing here. Zero character, no storyline, and it's a complete shame because I feel like she had a lot of potential but nothing moves on with her, and it's an absolute shame. I don't really want to talk about the rest of the characters because they are basically all the same. No character, no real storylines, no character arcs. The only difference really is what are they here for. There isn't even an attempt to write an actual character. There is no pretending that this is something beyond. And the acting in this show across the board is just terrible. No one really seems to care a little bit, except The Weeknd, who is just a really bad actor. Maybe while we're kinda on that topic, maybe quickly talk about Tedros, the cult leader. There isn't really much to talk about, so let's move quickly. No charisma, no personality, no idea why people follow him. Like, there isn't really a characteristic that makes him a person to follow, I shall say. He's basically the somehow worse version of Jared Leto's Joker in the first Suicide Squad movie, but with lots more sex and drugs, and some of the worst sex talk I have ever heard anywhere. Jesus fuck. Speaking about the nudity and naked scenes of the show, let's talk about them. This show is basically an artistic porn in 5 episodes. Every scene there is either explicit nudity or just straight up sex. And my question is, why and who allowed this? Who greenlit this $200 million sex fest? I don't have a problem with nudity in cinema. I feel like 99.99% of the time it's completely unnecessary and could be completely cut out of almost everything. But I don't really care that much. Like, it's something people do, I guess, and I'm so numb to it at this point that I just can't do anything but shrug. But in this show, there is basically nothing but that. Like, literally, I realized that the nudity can still shock people. If someone was shocked by the nudity past the first 3 scenes, how? And you know what? If Lily Rose Depp wants to show off her body, I have no problem about that. More power to her. We don't have any report about her feeling uncomfortable during the shoots, so let's just work under the condition that she had no problem with that. If she wants to have nude scenes, cool. But the way the camera shows her and the amount of time we see her basically almost naked feels really dehumanizing. Like, sometimes it feels like they only show her on camera because she's a naked famous model, and it feels really disgusting. It's a real shame because she has probably the best acting performance in this show outside of the sex scenes because they are just horrific. She has some good moments that are completely killed by the way she gets objectified by both script and directing. It really feels like the show was only made for one person and one person only, and I don't really want Sam Levinson to show me what he wants. But what's definitely the worst part of this show, and probably the most disgusting part of it, is the ending. This is, and always will be, the worst season ending in history. I have no doubt, not a single doubt about it. It basically takes all of that abuse that the main character suffered throughout this entire show and turns it into a kink. I wish I was lying, but I honestly don't know how else to interpret this ending that makes any sense. Hi, it's me again from the future. I guess also another interpretation that I didn't mention to the one I said, that she was the villain all along, which is A, fucking stupid, B, really disgusting, C, very damaging. So yeah, I guess this ending is somehow even worse than I described it. Not that it makes any sense in this form because it's completely out of fucking nowhere, built up by nothing, basically like everything else in this godforsaken show, but this feels especially infuriating. You took a real traumatic thing that happened and still happens to a lot of people, to a lot of women, that can cause PTSD and real trauma for the rest of their lives, something that they have to live with, something so traumatizing and painful to so many women across the world, and you turn it into a fucking kink and a musical inspiration. Fuck you. Fuck you and everything you stand for. I was never so angry at a TV show. This is just morally reprehensible. I cannot believe this shit exists. How the fuck did this come out? Everybody who was involved in creation of this ending and everyone who greenlit it for release should be fucking ashamed of themselves and should never work on a TV show, movie, or basically anywhere in the industry ever again. And Sam Levinson especially. I didn't forget about you. I know this is mostly his fault. He should not be allowed behind the camera ever again. Never, ever. And you know what's scary? Sam Levinson basically walks off the shitstorm unscathed. From what I've seen so far, most of the internet decided to target The Weeknd for this mess. Which, you know what? Fair. He was the co-creator, he was a producer, he was involved in the writing. Allegedly he wasn't, but who cares? But he wasn't the main mind behind it, and he isn't the main reason this show looks like this. Levinson is, and gets next to zero shit for it. It is really fucking sad. Like everything about this whole situation, the behind the scenes, the whole drama, what was cut out, because my god, the shit that was cut out, what the show is, and what happened after this whole thing was released. It's so fucking sad. I feel defeated. This show, I lost the faith in television, in HBO, in Warner, in everything after I watched this show. Okay, summary, I guess. This is the worst show of the year. This is the worst show of the decade. And it's probably the worst show I have ever seen. Not a single TV show made me so angry. Not a single show made me so defeated. Not a single show made me cringe so much. And not a single TV show made me so disgusted. I wanted to give it a 0, but it's worse. This show changes everything about what I thought was the worst shows in history. I cannot even comprehend the badness of the show itself and everything surrounding it. I don't know, 0 minus, I guess. Jesus. I guess this is the part where I tell you to, leave a comment. If you want to discuss this show, leave your opinion.